Hello and welcome to Alley Oop's very first weekend update. My name is Lauren Withrow alongside my co-host Phil Ladzinski, and we are going to break down what might be one of the most exciting weekends of the entire year.
Absolutely. For a sports fan, it doesn't get any better than the first weekend of March Madness. Although this year there weren't a ton of upsets, but still wildly entertaining throughout. So I think we're all just lucky to be able to experience this and to have Michigan continue to be in the tournament year after year. We're definitely spoiled.
Right, and it was really great that we had both the men's and the women's teams competing in the tournament this year, so that will bring us to our very first expert. Allie is going to slide on in to help us break down the women's tournament.
Hey.
Hey, Allie, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Great. So why don't you help us break down that 30-point win that Michigan had against Kansas?
You know, they have played a really good game against Kansas State. It's always a bit of a bummer, you know, when you pull that 8-9 matchup. It can be really tough. And our ladies came out and they didn't look scared at all. They took on Kansas State with a lot of energy. And we had Naz Hillman drop another double-double just to round out a great year for her.
Right, and then after that game, obviously, we had the disappointing loss against Louisville. What do you think led to that loss?
I mean, Louisville's played some really good defense on us, and we didn't have a lot of high scorers in that game. I think Kenray Johnson led the way with 12 points, which is not a great day for the ladies. But also, they were playing Louisville at the Yum Center in Louisville, so you know, it's always tough to play against that home crowd, and they had a lot of fans there, so.
It just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair at all.
It was a little tough, but a good highlight of the game, Nicole Munger scored her 1,000th career point there, so it was a good way for her to end the season at least.
Very notable stat. You seem to know a lot about women's basketball. May I ask what makes you an expert in this field?
Well, as one of the 3 women on this show, and someone who played a little bit of women's basketball, and someone who watched more than 3 games this year, you know, I think that's kind of what makes me an expert.
I'd say that's, self-proclaimed. You deserve that title for sure. Well, thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having me.
We're lucky to have you.
And now we're going to send it over to Dan, our resident NBA expert, who's coming in all the way from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Shout out the Fort.
Shout out the Fort to shout out his, biggest draft stock players of the tournament so far. Who has improved their chance of getting a top 10 pick, Dan, and who is, dropping way down that list, you think?
Yeah, the number one guy got to be John Morant.
Definitely.
Showed out. The matchup, him versus Marcus Howard against Marquette. I mean, he dominated the whole game. Even though his stats might be not that eye-popping, he'd have a triple-double, but he just dominated all facets of the game. He was everywhere.
Yeah, easily.
Another guy, Brandon Clark from Gonzaga. That guy's ridiculous. I mean,
monster. 15 of 18 from the field.
He's got bunnies on bunnies. I swear, every time his dunks were insane. His second leap, which is the most impressive thing, where you go for a rebound and then he immediately jumps back down and then oops it again.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah, he's got hops.
Not so much maybe Marcus Howard. Someone who dropped on some boards. PJ Washington, also someone to keep an eye on because he didn't even play. Some health concerns. With the feet. Long and skinny could be some issues. So. There's some people to keep some eyes on.
Definitely, and who's left in the tournament that we haven't already talked about that has the potential to show out going forward. I mean, obviously you got your Zions but who maybe a little more under the radar that could really show out.
Yeah, there's this little guy, R.J. Barrett. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a
the
great
number
potential.
1 guy in the recruiting class.
Yeah, great potential. Him. I don't know. There's another guy on Duke, Cam Reddish. I don't know.
Okay, I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, all these underdog guys. They're not really recruited that well out of college.
Definitely.
They go to college and they're playing pretty well. Duke is a decent team going forward. So
it's tough to get exposure when you play for Duke, but
really
they're playing well enough to maybe have a chance at getting some exposure. So
well, there's a chance.
Yep, and I'm sorry, Dan, but we're running quick on time today, so I'm going to have to send you away. But we can't wait to talk to you again. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us once again.
We are so lucky to have Dan. I mean, I was writing down some quotes of his during that, and his descriptions for these players. We've got little guy, we've got long and skinny. I mean, the detail is just incredible. So
it is very impressive.
A true expert in his
He
field.
can figure out those attributes like
Yes.
that. I don't know how
He's quick on
got
his
so
feet.
intelligent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to continue moving forward with our show, Allie is going to return, our resident Duke expert, which although nobody is really sure how she became a Duke expert, maybe she can let us know. Allie, what is your fascination with this Blue Devil basketball team?
Well, I've been a Duke fan since I was little because my dad went there, but it's really, once you start being a Duke fan, you really enjoy being public enemy number 1 at all times of the year. And it's it's been really great. So I think that's what's kept me, haters gonna hate, so.
If you say so, although Michigan basketball is looking pretty solid. What do you think of a Duke-Michigan matchup in the Final Four? Who would you even root for?
I would definitely be rooting for Michigan. No worries here. Duke is now the #2 team, but
Good to hear, for sure.
I think it would be a really tough matchup for Michigan. I'm a little nervous, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Excited to see it, so I'm hoping that it'll happen, but definitely nervous.
Certainly both teams have a couple big games to win before we can get there, so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but who knows. Speaking of big games, Duke recently won by 1 point over UCF, and you know, it was awfully close. What do you think of that Zion and Taco Fall matchup?
I was very scared going into the game.
Definitely.
If you see pictures of them by each other, I never thought I'd see someone make Zion look small.
He's a monster.
And yeah, he does. But I think it was pretty interesting. Taco kind of dominated for most of the game, I would say, just containing the Duke team really well. It definitely boded well for us that he fouled out right before those last few seconds. I don't know. The game definitely, I think, could have turned out differently.
For sure, he could have gotten that rebound at the end, or who knows. But he was definitely an impact player. I mean, at 7'6", it would be hard not to be an impact player. Yeah. I'm going to have to send you away, Allie. Thank you for sharing this weekend, and I'm sure we'll see you again in the future, maybe if Michigan and Duke are going to square up in the Final Four.
So speaking of Duke, who is probably at the top of most of America's brackets this year, we are going to have our seating expert, John, slide on in to break down bracketology, basically. So we have an exceptionally accurate seating so far, and you are the expert. Can you tell me, where does your expertise come from?
Well, I can say I watch a little bit of basketball, as much as I can. And I've been the #1 criticizer of the committee in the past, so I think that my expertise comes from seeing what they've done wrong in the past and hoping they improve in the future.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to see the error and then fix it yourself. And you actually are leading our tournament challenge.
Oh, of course.
So
easy money.
Adds on to it. So where do you think we're going to see upsets moving forward?
I don't know that we'll see that many upsets going forward, to be honest with you. I think that the selection committee did a great job with their seeding this year. Part of that, I think, is the net rankings. The RPI is a joke, and it's about time they got rid of that. In the past, they've had some seeding issues because the RPI is probably the worst metric in all of sports. And I think that the net evaluation tool this year that they used was a great way to seed teams, and you're seeing that now with the first time since '09 you have all 1, 2, and 3 seeds in the Sweet 16. And I think that just speaks to how the committee did a great job seeding the teams, maybe not putting them in the brackets. Some teams will have issues with, mostly Michigan State, but I think the seeding itself was done really well.
All right, so we had, people had the opportunity to fill out a last chance bracket starting with the Sweet 16. What would your advice to those, people looking to redo their brackets be? Who are you taking to the Final Four?
Well, my first bit of advice for the Sweet 16 brackets is to fill out a better first bracket, because you won't need a Sweet 16 bracket in that case. But going forward, seeing the way the tournament's gone, I think you can't go wrong with picking the 1 seeds and 2 seeds, really. I mean, the ACC seeds are doing great. Duke looks shaky, but I think they're going to show out, especially when they get to play against Michigan State. I think that you're looking at a great team in Virginia in that region. Tennessee's not the best, in my opinion. I think that either UNC or Kentucky come out of that region over there. Kentucky's got their best player out, so maybe UNC there. And then really the West region's kind of a toss-up. I mean, Michigan's great. Texas Tech looks amazing, and I could see either Gonzaga or Florida State there. So really, if you want to take a flyer, take anybody out of that region, but stick with chalk and the other ones.
Makes sense. Well, we will see how that all shakes out coming up in the next couple of weeks. So thank you, John. You can slide on out of here so I can talk to my friend Phil one more time. Phil, we had some great experts on today. We are so fortunate to have such a knowledgeable crew.
We truly are blessed here at Alley-Oop to have so many intelligent and fun to be with people at this show. And, I'm just looking forward to the next time that we're able to do this.
Yeah, so, I can't wait till maybe one time you and I will actually be the experts. We'll see.
Maybe
that'll happen.
A little unlikely, but you never know. You never know.
All right, well, you guys will stay tuned for more Alley-Oop. And